The James Show Podcast.
Oh, we're going today. So I'm hearing some people lament about the purge of people who are just absolute ghouls in their reaction to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Oh, I thought you didn't like cancel culture. This is purge. This is free speech. First Amendment. Shut up. Oh, my God. Almost every day in this line of work for the past 23 years, one of you ghouls have tried to get me fired for saying something that you don't agree with. You think I have any compunction or hesitation or my foot's even hovering over in the brake on you people getting fired? How many people did you just fire over COVID mandates? How many people did you just fire because, well, you know, if it saves one life, we got to shut down all small businesses and we'll only take you to the big box realtors? And what did like 500,000 small restaurants close or over 1 million small businesses were killed by the COVID lockdowns? Now, that doesn't count technically as a firing, but that's the same thing. When you lose your job, when your small business closes, that is your job. You lost it. You didn't care about any of those people. You didn't care. It was more important that you felt safe, that you had to control the private activities of all Americans with no due process for a disease that's 99.9% survivable. Oh, no. No, boo-boo. You get no sympathy over here. I lost 2 jobs because of your butt-headedness. Oh, I wish I could use worse words. During COVID. You know how many teachers got fired during COVID for not taking the shot that doesn't work, that was sold to them under lies from a mandate? You know how many pilots lost their job? You know how many soldiers lost their job? Hell, even talk show hosts lost their jobs. I couldn't go into many studios because I never got the vaccine. There are companies I can't work for right now. And after I lost my job, there were a couple jobs I was signing up for. Went through the interview process. Oh, have you gotten your vaccine yet? No, I have not. Oh, well, that's not a problem. Look, if you just stop by the CVS. No, you don't understand. That's not going to happen. Now, if you want, I can give you a piece of paper saying I had the vaccine, but I'm sure as hell not going to get it. I mean, if you just need some paperwork, we can come up with some paperwork. Didn't get the job. So no, you get no sympathy. You don't get any of your, well, First Amendment, well, you know, better to be the bigger person. And no, there's no forgiveness. There's going to be no grace. Are you people blanking kidding me? You're shooting at us on a near constant basis, asking for mercy. Hell no. Why don't you tell those people to shut up and stop calling us Nazis? You would get, you know who is getting sympathy from me on the left right now? The Bill Maher's of the world. The Bill Maher's are saying, hey, we got to stop with the Hitler stuff. That guy gets sympathy from me. I don't think he should lose his job. But the rest of you have no problem kicking us out of our jobs over COVID, over mandates. You have no problem kicking anybody out of their job if they tweeted while they were a senior in high school in 2012 the N-word. You didn't have any problems with all these other purges. In fact, if anybody said an N-word at any time and it gets brought up in the public sphere, you lose your job. Unless you're black, of course. Isn't that a neat trick? So no, absolutely no mercy. No mercy. For the student at Texas Tech that just got kicked out of college for basically dancing on the grave of Charlie Kirk, smacking a fellow student. Simple assault, but still, when you're reveling in his death, you homie dead. You homie effing dead. First off, lady, you're at a university. You don't know how to conjugate your verbs? That's ridiculous. Number 2, you're going to commit simple assault. Not only are you not upset by the shooting, not only are you not indifferent, you were celebrating it, so much so that when a guy told you to stop, you smacked his head off his head. Hell yeah, get kicked out of college. How many people have been kicked out of college for violating the ethos of the left? Oh, he said something that was coloring outside of the lines. He said something that was anti-woman. He said something that was anti-gay. He said something that was racist. He said something that was transphobic. They're kicking you out of college. They're kicking you out of your job all day, every day. And now we actually have a decent reason to identify who the horrible people are. Hell yeah, get kicked out of your job. I can't kick them out of their jobs fast enough. I was excited to tell you that the Texas Educational Agency sent out a note to superintendents, and then they've gotten 180 complaints that they're all investigating. Yeah. Yes, if you celebrated this, if you've revealed yourself to be a ghoul and indifferent to the assassination of a person over words based on political ideology that's not even extreme, it's the mainstream thought of half of the country. Yeah, you don't deserve to be around our kids. You don't deserve to be a doctor. You don't deserve to be a nurse. You shouldn't be allowed to serve on a jury. You shouldn't be allowed around kids, period. You shouldn't be allowed around a preschool. You shouldn't be allowed to be a paramedic or a firefighter or a cop. You need to regain your humanity and somehow demonstrate that before I'm even 5 seconds comfortable with you keeping your job. I hope everyone that made a ghoulish celebratory post about Charlie Kirk gets fired. Why? I did it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. No, hey, it's fine. Just learn to code. You'll be fine. Yeah, there's freedom of speech, not freedom of consequences. That's what I was told when you kicked me out of my jobs, plural. No, fire all the ghouls. I don't care if we have a teacher shortage. I don't care if we have a cop shortage or a firefighter shortage. How about we get decent human beings who haven't said these horrible things to replace them? Yeah, purge them. Can't purge them fast enough. Coming up next, you'll hear the report. WFAA did a pretty good summary of what's going on here because, there's actually a little system in place. And, the debate is going to move from, okay, if we fire them, isn't someone just going to step in and sue and some judge is going to stop it? Make them do it. Maybe you might be right. Well, let's talk about that next. Do you think all these teachers deserve to be fired? Do you think anyone who made one of those ghoulish posts deserves to be fired? And look, I don't think anyone. Like, if you don't deal with the public, if you don't deal with human beings, if you're not holding people's lives in your hand, that's fine. So if you're a farmer who's herding cattle, or you're a garbage man who just picks up dump trucks, or you work in road construction, something like that, no, you can keep your job. But all you teachers, you cops, you firefighters, anyone in the medical industry, anyone in the insurance industry, hell, I wouldn't trust you to be a cook in the back end of a restaurant. Yeah, you should all lose your jobs. We may be at the beginning of the Great Texas Purge, and I hope we are. And it's not that all teachers across the land are going to be fired for their terrible Charlie Kirk post. No, the blue states will let it slide. No, you can celebrate death as long as it's one of our political opponents. As long as it's one of those evil, straight, white Christians, male, even worse. But at least here in Texas, when someone demonstrates that they're just god-awful human beings, we should believe them and we should act accordingly. Look, and I don't think this is a violation of your First Amendment rights. We're not putting you in jail. You're free to demonstrate what a terrible person you are. Just, you're not allowed to be around our kids once you do. So a couple of audio clips are going to sort of cement the full context here. You'll hear from J.D. Vance next, but right now, WFAA did their report on the Great Texas Purge.
Tonight, we're seeing new fallout over social media posts some North Texans made in the days after he died.
Teresa Woodard explains why some people are losing their jobs and what you should know tonight.
The First Amendment gives Americans the right to speak and the right to post, but does not give Americans the right to keep a job.
A private employer can fire or discipline an employee for political speech.
Employment attorney Rocky Dunn has tried multiple First Amendment cases.
It doesn't matter if it's spoken or written, if it's on your time or the company time.
That is correct.
People in all kinds of careers are being fired because of what they said on social media about the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. From pilots to professors and teachers too. The Texas Education Agency told superintendents instances of inappropriate content being shared by teachers should be reported to the state. The TEA has received 180 complaints. And according to Governor Abbott, the educators will, quote, have their teacher certifications suspended and be ineligible to teach in a Texas public school.
Good.
Dunn is...
The First Amendment protects government employees.
Skeptical a permanent ban from the classroom would hold up in court.
I think if those actions are followed through by the governor, that they're going to face a lot of lawsuits. And if you ask me, I think I'd rather be on the teacher side.
He reminds us something posted even privately and on personal time can cause public permanent damage.
And remember, employers can say you can't smoke. Period. So guess what? Employers are regulating employees' personal lives every day in every way.
And it's legal.
And it's legal.
Texas AFT, the Federation of Teachers, calls what is happening a witch hunt. They say, quote, the investigations into teachers exercising their First Amendment rights outside their official duties silence dissent and encourage the purging of civil servants.
Shut up, teachers union. You're defending these ghouls. What is wrong with unions? How are y'all like on the wrong side of so many of these other issues? Like, I understand when it comes to workers' rights, how you have your opinions distorted. But seeing a guy shot in the neck in front of his family for political opinions, you're like, well, let's tap the brakes and not rush to judgment here. No, stop it. Stop it. Oh, you're leading the campaign to purge public school teachers. Yes, actually we are. And that's not a bad thing. 800-288-9227. This is Sandra in Granbury. You're on WBAP.
Hi, James. I've got a question on a comment you made, actually, prior to the cut in there.
Sure.
You had said what is acceptable is cattle people being abusive to their livestock. James, if I'm a cattle person, if I saw somebody abusive to livestock, it'd be the first one I'd take out for abuse or not having any conscience whatsoever. And if you know any history, you know that people that abuse animals are generally those that will go on to abuse children, other humans, and so forth. So sometimes some of the things that we do are misconstrued as abuse, but it's actually for the health and well-being because we do it quickly and without abuse.
That's a pretty good comparison. What do you think about the purging of teachers and professors?
I think you're absolutely right. They're in the wrong profession. If they're going to have no conscience whatsoever for another living human being, I don't want them around my children, my grandchildren. I don't want that doctor practicing on my husband. They just are not carrying the right train of thought whatsoever.
Well, it also tells you that they are the people that can be easily convinced to believe absurd things that just aren't real. I mean, that is a dangerous person who believes half this country is genuinely white supremacists, genuinely Nazis or supportive of Nazi. I mean, what kind of hellscape must they live in? Do they just like walk through the mall or through Walmart suspicious of half the people around them, thinking any of these people could be a bloodthirsty, murderous, white supremacist, white national, whatever they want to call us? It's a nice demonstration of just mental weakness. Like, go do your own research, and you still believe in this stuff, and you're still celebrating an assassination. Wow. Sandra,
I'm in total agreement. I think one of the things that I find I'm old enough, I'm 76, when I saw the internet come around and how easily people could be manipulated rather than have their own thought process, rather than their own deductive reasoning. And I hate to say it this way, but led by their nose, we have a problem. In this country.
They were led by their nose by the mainstream media and the few networks and the newspapers before that. We just changed the vehicle by which the dumb people are deceived in these days. And I don't know. I really felt like since we all have access to all the world's knowledge that some of this would have already worked itself out. But there's people just insisting on misinformation, insisting on doctored videos of Charlie Kirk. There's a woman who got fired from I think it was Washington Post for misquoting Charlie Kirk, and she's like, all I did was criticize white people and it cost me my job. No, you lied, and you're still lying. You're lying about lying. We all know. Show me the video where he said that. And you probably heard that on Markley, Van Camp and Robbins, and so all good points.
Again, that's just a case of them not doing their own due diligence and not thinking that there's any consequence for their action. That is a problem with our society today.
Yeah, that's the other problem. Not only do they say it and think it, they think it's safe to say out loud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that anonymity of the internet, that anonymity of that email, and it's time that we all stand up and be responsible for what we're doing and saying and what we're teaching our young people. And I can say this isn't just in the United States. It is all over the world.
Yeah.
That people are no longer responsible, no longer are people even remotely taught about consequence for their actions.
Well, time for them to find out, Sandra. Great call. Good to start off with. So, yeah. Remember, when we had the big COVID vaccine mandates, there was the mandate for government workers, which is millions and millions of our neighbors here between the post office and the military and, the IRS and all that. Excuse me. But then there was the mandate for giant corporations, which never stuck legally, but a lot of giant corporations wanted to do it anyway, and this gave them the cover to do the vaccine mandate. So whether it was pilots, whether it was nurses and doctors or teachers or whoever it was, there was a purge of people from all these industries, and it was a right-wing purge. The people who were vaccine hesitant were almost exclusively right-wing, overwhelmingly right-wingers. So the left-wingers, they followed along and they did what their good overlords told them, even if it was wrong, even if it was antithetical to everything they've been taught their entire life. They still took it and they were rewarded for it. We got to start playing by the same rules. Remember, people lost their jobs for COVID. Do not have any sympathy for people losing their jobs for celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I was hearing Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins before the James Show. They're my new lead-in show on 11 to 2. They were saying something similar. I was putting together the notes for the show, and that's always cool when you're doing something and the show you're listening to goes into the same topic. You're like, I want to see what they're saying. And it was sort of the same attack, but I don't think they zoomed out the lens wide enough, because they're talking about what J.D. Vance talked about here, how this isn't a both sides problem. When you survey people and they self-identify as either very liberal or somewhat conservative, very conservative, and then you ask them, is political violence ever okay? There's some concern about that, but I'll play J.D. Vance, but then I'm going to zoom out, and it's going to make even more sense, and you'll understand why I'm less surprised than a lot of people are on the reaction to Charlie Kirk's death. So this was J.D. Vance, Vice President of the United States, sitting in on the Charlie Kirk show yesterday. He has a nationally syndicated radio show, and 1 hour of it is on Real America's Voice, I think is the network.
And there are difficult truths we must confront in our country. One truth is that 24% of self-described, quote, very liberals believe it is acceptable to be happy about the death of a political opponent.
24%.
While only 3% of self-described very conservatives agree. 3% is too many, of course. Another truth is that 26% of young liberals believe political violence is sometimes justified. And only 7% of young conservatives say the same. Again, too high a number. In a country of 330 million people, you can, of course, find one person of a given political persuasion justifying this or that or almost anything. But the data is clear. People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told.
So the context I want to add to that, because I feel like a bunch of shows are going to play you this soundbite, but not add what I'm about to add. That number echoed from COVID. Let's go back to COVID. This is one of the greatest lessons you could have learned, just the most difficult way to learn it. Do you remember back in COVID? Remember, 24% of very liberal people justify political violence. Think it's okay to celebrate an assassination like that. During COVID, and I don't mean in the first couple of months when everyone was pulling their hair out. This was in January of 2022. So we had been going this for 2 years. We had had the vaccine for over a year. Rasmussen did a poll that showed 29% of Democrat voters would support removing parents' custody of their children if the parents refused to take the COVID-19 vaccine. You hear that? 29% of you. 29% of Democrats, I should say, supported you losing custody of your own children for not behaving in the way they see fit. It was even worse than that. 45% of Democrats said they would favor governments requiring citizens to temporarily live in designated facilities or locations if we refuse to get the COVID vaccine. You know what that means? They're willing to put you in an internment camp, concentration camp if you want to be hyperbolic. I'll go with the more moderate language and just say internment camp. 45% of Democrats were okay with rounding you up and putting you in a camp because you didn't take a vaccine that doesn't work, a vaccine that hadn't been tested for 3 years, which your entire life, if a vaccine hadn't been tested for at least 3 years in huge clinical trials approved by the FDA, it was considered so dangerous, it was illegal, even for terminal patients. But now you lose your kids, you lose your job, and you get thrown in a concentration camp. I'm sorry, an internment camp. Oh, wait. Designated facility. Yeah, and these are the people that are upset about Alligator Alcatraz. Oh, you're just rounding these people up and putting them in camps. So that's what you wanted to do to me. Bro, this isn't ancient history. This is 2022. This is 3 years ago. 3 years ago. And now they're doing this again. You should not be shocked. This is not a problem with all Democrats. No, but whoever this is, whoever the 24% is that thinks it's okay to celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination, for the 45% that wanted to put you in a internment camp for refusing the vaccine, the 29% of Democrat voters who supported removing parents' custody of their children if they refuse the vaccine, whoever these people are, whatever the subgroup is, because we don't have names, negative names for lefty ideas like we do righty ideas. Yeah, you've noticed that too, like the Orwellian use of the language. How many terms are thrown against me and you that are just terrible, dehumanizing, base terms? Racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, Nazi, literally Hitler, transphobe, Islamophobe. Well, what's the word for people who shoot at Christians? You ever heard the term Christophobe grace the TV of CNN or MSNBC? What about the people who are anti-heteros? What is there a word for that? Heterophobe? You ever heard that one? You know, there is the word that gets used a lot, you know, the patriarchy. But for guys who misogynists that mistreat women, there's a word for women who mistreat men and think men should be subservient. Misandry. Never gets used, does it? Why is that? So, yeah, at least 29% of Democrat voters are absolutely off the rocker. I like the term far left. We've got to come up with something better than that. But there are good Democrats out there. Bill Maher is out there speaking out against it, saying we need to stop calling people Hitler. The good Democrats that are politicians aren't really saying anything right now. But there's two styles of Democrats, and one of them needs to be purged. They all need to lose their job. I'm not talking about the good ones. I'm not talking about Mark Cuban. I'm talking about the ones that would take away your kid, that wanted to take away your kid 3 years ago for not giving them an experimental vaccine. 45% of Democrats wanted to put you in an internment camp for not taking the vaccine. And now we have 24% of them that think it's okay to celebrate Charlie Kirk's murder. We have a problem with those people. Not all Democrats, not all lefties, not all non-Republicans. I'm not the fascist saying, well, if you don't agree with me, then you should die. No. But these people, we've got to do something about them, and they do not need to be around our kids. You would be surprised how many of these people are our teachers, our kids' teachers. You'd be surprised how many of these people are doctors and nurses and people that respond to firefighter calls or police calls. All of those people. Lose your job and learn your lesson. I know you're not capable of assassinating anyone. I'm not capable of assassinating anyone. But some people's brains just don't work like ours. How on earth do they work? Well, Dr. John Brady's joining us. He's a forensic psychologist who has a new book coming out called Breakdown, and it's a criminal analysis of Lee Harvey Oswald and Sirhan Sirhan. Might be a good idea to talk to someone who's done a little bit of research in this. And Dr. John Brady, first off, welcome to the show. What is going on inside the minds of people who are capable of assassinations like this?
Yeah, James, you know, thanks very much for the interview. I mean, this is a particularly relevant day because there's all kinds of legal actions going on with the Mangione case, with the Robinson case. So it's very germane that we have a little talk and discuss what you point out, the mental state actually could relate to a larger situation, which is what is the mental state of the whole country with these young people? I mean, there's been so much of this around. I've been asked about it so many times concerning what is happening with the conversion rights of these people. I don't even use the word, I was just telling your producer, I don't use the word radicalized. I think it's overly used. I mean, I use the word conversion. What is happening with the conversion of people into this alternative ideology that often promotes violence?
Yeah, exactly. So explain. Is this some guy who was going to commit an act of violence anyway and he just got pointed in this direction? Or was this an otherwise peaceful guy who, once these ideas were put in his head, he became violent?
Yeah, I think that you have to look at the overarching, nature of conversion and what happens when an ideological person becomes converted or subverted into a different ideology where they can justify their actions as being meaningful and significant in keeping with whatever goals that they have in mind or whatever group that they represent have in mind. This particular assassination is so interesting because it mirrors the Luigi Mangione case in December 4th, 2024. It mirrors the facts of that case almost parallel. The stalking, the conversion of the offender, what happened to him, the angst created by two kind of socio-political ideologies, and I James, I call this ideological tourism, that these people are grievance keepers, that they're looking for something to hold on to, that they need an ideology. Mangione was a perfect person in his case. The defendant in the Robertson case, he's also, or in the Kirk case, he's also an ideological tourist looking for something, picking up information in the internet, through the chat rooms, through this Discord situation. I'm not so interested in the basic mechanics of who said what to whom and why, but I'm interested in the messages and decoding of these messages to these vulnerable people and what it means to the outcome of their lives and the safety of innocent people's lives, like Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is obviously a huge tragedy, and it was predicated on the perpetrator's almost delusional sense of justice with these people, with lots of these people. And I write about these people in my book Breakdown, with other, especially Mangione. They have an appeal to a higher authority, that they believe that their mission is so righteous that it places them above moral codes and moral standards that regulate a formal society. So they have this godly-like complex that whatever they do, it can be justified, kind of a Machiavellian
hey, real
situation.
quick, I only have 1 minute left, and I have one more question. Dr. John Brady, you're a forensic psychologist. Would we have less of these incidences if not for the hyperbolic, sensational reporting of the media?
Absolutely, yeah, you're absolutely right. I wish we had another half an hour so we could tease out some of these threads here. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the media has no understanding of the complex psychiatric status of these people, and the 90% of what they say goes unchallenged, and it's untrue.
All right, we'll have to have you back on, dig a little deeper into this in the future. For now, Dr. John Brady,
I'd like to, Jim. I'd like to.
Good deal. In the meantime, if you want to check out his book, Breakdown, A Criminal Analysis of Lee Harvey Oswald and Sirhan Sirhan, I got a lot of questions about that. So we'll have you back on soon, Dr. John Brady. Appreciate your time, sir.
James, I'd like it a lot. Good luck to you and your show.
Thank you very much. All right, coming up on the James Show, a couple more clips from J.D. Vance when he took over the Charlie Kirk spot on yesterday. Two more clips I want you to hear, because there's some people that are saying we need unity right now. And J.D. Vance, not so sure we need unity right now. You'll hear it yourself next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
The James Show Podcast.